Good morning, everyone. Welcome to November. It continues to amaze me how quickly time goes by. But here we are, November. And we've got Kristen. Good morning. Hi, Terry. All right, we got the East Coast covered. I am going to get ready here in just a second. I have a few announcements to make regarding the block of the month. First of all, is going to be revealed tomorrow on the quilt show. So that will be exciting. I always look forward to seeing what the new block of the month is going to be. I have not completed one yet, but one of these days it will get completed with that. So here we go. Hello, everyone. Got Linda and Kathy and Paula and Betty. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad you're all here. Let me say that again. Tomorrow on the quilt show, be sure to tune in because they are going to reveal the new block of the month for 2026. And today, though, we are going to be working on our blocks for the Circus Comes to Town. But first, I want to share with you, and I apologize to the two ladies. Somehow I misplaced the names as I was transferring it. So I apologize already for that. But here is one version of the rings. And she's already quilted it and making it as a wall hanging. And I believe that she is going to a couple of other blocks that she wanted to do. She was going to do the same thing with. So there is one version of that. I really like her background fabrics because they're fun and different. And her choices of the rings work really well with it. And her quilting really focuses in on that circle. So thank you very much. And then I also have an owl block. And again, I so apologize for not having the names. I'll have them next week, hopefully. But here we have an owl block. She's using a very different kind of background. I don't know if she's going to continue with other blocks with that. But great job on both the feet, the beak, all of it, color combinations, great job. So if you have pictures of any of the blocks or getting going on your quilt and would like to share them with us, please do. Either here, you can email them to me or put them on the forum so that everybody can see and enjoy them time and again, because I know a lot of people like to go and check on what others are doing. It just helps get them going and get excited about that. So all right, I think I was walking outside a little too late last night with grandkids, and this morning I got a bit of a cough. All right, we're going to go to The Circus Comes to Town. If you have your book, it's page 38. I think it's the same for the download pattern as well. It took a minute, but got to it, and I want to walk through making one of these triangle pieces. I guess you would call them a triangle piece, but how to put it together and get that going. So if you'll check down here with me, I have one that I have made, and so combinations of all the different fabrics. And again, I'm using the fabrics for both my demonstration and for a small lap size baby, actually not a baby quilt, but for a small child. And I think these fabrics will work just fine for that. I really like them. They have a warm kind of fall feel to them, which I'm kind of excited about with that, as well as they've got some brightness to them. So here is a block finished, and we're gonna walk through. Let me put that aside, and we're gonna walk through and put one together. You cut your squares, and you're going to pair them up. However, you know, you want the pairs to go. And for the first, and you're going to need 3 of these sets. And here is my first set. I went ahead and made that. And so for each of the triangles, you're going to need 3 sets. And this is my first set. And now we're going to make our second set. So again, I have paired up 2 squares. And according to the sizes and directions in your pattern, you're going to make a mark on the bottom left-hand side of your block and on the upper right-hand side of the block. And here is where you really want to make sure that ruler is in the right place and that you have got it right, kind of really on the money, because it'll make a difference when you go to sew them together. Not huge, but huge enough. And then the next thing that we do is line it up, and I look like I have a square that's not exactly there, so that I don't run into trouble later, I am going to, okay, it's my outer one that is correct, and my top one is a little bit short, and so I'm gonna, you know, go ahead and cut and keep that shortness in mind, if you will. All right, now you're going to take your block, and I think I'm going to need a little bit bigger ruler. That one didn't quite go from top to bottom. So I'm going to, and here again, if I could just, you know, kind of say it, getting your ruler, you know, in the same place each time. So I'm shooting for the very edge of my markings, so that I'm hitting the center. So this one is at the edge on the bottom left, and this one is also to the left at the top. And that way when I cut right through the top of my marking on both ends of that. And that's really what I want to do, and I try to do that for each one. Now we're going to make 2 piles. We're going to have a left pile and a right pile, and as long as you have them right sides together, and I did not do that correctly. Because I thought, okay, so you're going to have 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side, and I did do it correctly. I was just thinking, well, I don't know what I was thinking. So let's do that again, one more time, so that we have our 3 units. And again, my fabrics are right sides together, and I'm going to do my marking. And it's very helpful. Make sure that you iron your fabric before you do cutting, marking, whatever. So I've got my marks. I get my little bit bigger ruler, And again, I am, hopefully you can see enough on the screen with the space that I have here. And so I'm going from bottom left to upper right and getting my ruler right at the edge. And I will get 2 lefts and 2 rights, and I want to make sure that those are placed right sides together. And now comes the sewing process. And if you have your pattern or your book, I would advise you to get that and follow along with me. So she's pretty clear in the book, and there really isn't a huge question about it. It's just keeping it in order as you sew. And that's probably the hardest part, is just keeping what you're doing in the right order. So the first 2 that you're going to take together, and you're going to lay them right sides together. And we are going to sew, and that string just won't leave, across here. All right, so we're going to go on that bottom short side, making sure that everything is aligned. And so let's go ahead and sew that first spot. And I'll turn it this way so that I can get my 1/4 inch seam, which would be helpful. And I'm going to chain stitch these. I find that goes a little bit faster for me. So I'm going to put the next 2 right sides together. Making sure that they're lined up as they're supposed to be. All right, then our next step, I'm going to do, kind of do them together. And I did something incorrect. Oh, because I just sewed the wrong sides together. So let me put these aside. I'll take them out later. And I am so sorry. So let's put this one together and ignore everything I have told you before. I was not reading the pattern correctly. And we do not sew down at the bottom. And some of you probably already told me that in the chat box. And thank you for that. Instead, we're going to sew along the long side. And that's this long kind of angled side here. So let's move back to the machine and let's do this the right way. At least I caught it. All right, and let's get the other piece. And here's where you might want to put a drop of glue if you're a glue person, or pin to make sure that those end points don't move on you. All right, now let's try this. All right. So now we have a piece that looks like this, which is what it should look like. And for the sewing part of it next, it does work well to press the seams open. And we have, and I put two purple ones together. And I really didn't want to do that, but that's okay for today. And now you're going to take these two pieces. So let's iron the other one. And again, we're gonna press them open. Hardest part is getting the seams to come apart. Alright, so we have these two pieces, and what we're going to do is put them right sides together and get everything lined up. And this is where you start to see how important it is to that the seams are pressed open so that you can see what's happening. This one is wanting to slide around a little bit, so I'm gonna go up here and stick a pin so that that holds that bottom part in place. Now as you're looking down at it, it's probably going to be backwards on screen, or maybe not. Now we're going to sew from on this end of these two pieces. So again, they're right sides together, and you want to sew from the outside and stop at the seam line. And the reason for that is, you know, to get that center as even as possible. Even though we're going to cover up that center seam, it's a great way to practice bringing, you know, your seams together. And, you know, like for a pinwheel, for an 8-pointed star, any other block that would bring multiple seams together. So I am going to sew right up on the seam line right there and stop. And so I have one more stitch, and then I'm going to take a stitch backwards, and I, you know, cutting it and making sure that it does not go over that seam line. So I can remove my pin. And again, now we should have a unit, and a unit that looks like this. And again, we're going to open our seams. And now we have our piece that is laying like this on the table. And if we can lay it out as the pattern shows it, you won't get confused like I did before. And so now we're going to take our next unit and we're going to lay it on top of this piece at the top. And again, I'm going to align my seams and get that all straight. And what I noticed, at least with mine, is that it always wanted to pull a little bit, and it's just how it's ironed and stuff. So again, I'm going to hold it in place as I'm moving it around by putting a pin there. And again, we're going to start stitching at the outer edge and move to the center and stop at that seam line once again. Now as I get close to this, I want to make sure that I'm stopping right on that seam line. Take one stitch back, and then my machine, as it's cutting, cuts right up to that seam line, so it works real well for that there. Again, remove your pin, and it would have been helpful if I had put those right sides together. And I got a feeling, boy, today is not my day. Is it? Because I didn't put those right sides together. And it'll take me just a second to undo this. And you may have, you know, there's a lot of new tools for taking seams out. They have these new pet groomers that people are raving about. I've tried them a couple of times. I don't find them to go as fast for me. Others absolutely love them. And if you are one of those people that loves your little groomer piece, that would probably make this much quicker. But this is pretty fast for me. So and where I had the knot, because I have my machine set to knot when it finishes. I like that. It keeps everything in place, but it does not make it easy for taking fabrics out. And that's what I'm working on here, is doing that little knot that's right in the center. But I am having a tough day today with my, let me just, with my right sides together. Not sure where my head is. Let me get rid of some of those little pesky pieces. And let's try this again. This time, we're going to put this this way. And now we're going to go right sides together. Lining up those seam lines. Making sure I have my outer edges. And the top of that in place, so everything is as it should be. Getting rid of some of those where it's fraying. A couple of these pieces of fabric have really frayed for me. Alright, so again I'm going to pin simply because it's wanting to move. It's shifting, not a lot, but it's shifting. And again, we'll take it to the machine and sew from edge to edge. Well, I've made enough mistakes today that you will not make any, because you've watched me make them all. And again, I'm going to sew right up to the seam, and that my needle thankfully goes right into the seam line, and when I cut it, the knot is right there where the seams come together. And I appreciate that about, at least for my machine. Makes that really, really nice there. And so I remove my pin, open that up, and again I want to press that seam open. And it's starting to get tricky up here in the center, where all those seams are coming together. And so now we have this unit that looks like this with the bottom open, and I'm sure you can guess we're going to turn this, we're going to fold this in half, get everything again lined up, and And for this one, for the moment, I'm going to put a pin right there at the edge. That way when I get to that point, if you can see what's happening here, let me see the camera. As I come up here, my 1/4 inch is going to go right along this seam so that when I open it, you're going to hit that point right on there. So that's what my aim and my goal is for this, is to sew that so that those two match up. And let me just get this side as well. So everything is aligned and my center will align itself. And the pin is really just holding it in place for me. Get rid of some of those threads. And let's go to the machine. And again, I'm sewing from the outside edge to the inside. And stopping again at the seam line. And it really makes it, with the seams pressed open, it even makes it easier to make sure that you're getting, you know, you're right on the seam where you're sewing it. The only thing is that this I found a little bit annoying because these threads kept the end piece there wanting to pull up. Most of the time I did pretty well, and then one back stitch, and then just to make sure it stays in place. All right, then let's take a look at that. And all of your seams should be coming right to the center. And for all my mistakes, the block came out pretty well. But again, I've made them, so now you don't have to. You'll be far more careful, because it's kind of a fun block to make, but it's just unique. It's just a unique block. And I found that, you know, when we put the circles on later, I'll be disappointed because, you know, when my seams come together that well in the center, they won't be seen. So let's, that's your block. And you're going to sew, if you're going to make the whole quilt, you'll sew as many as it says in the pattern, or if you're going to change the size of your quilt, you'll sew as many as you want to with that. And then the adjoining blocks are made exactly the same way, except that they are the background fabrics white. Now in her quilt, she made them with a variety of fabrics, and I just want to go back to the quilt itself so you can see it. And so we just made one of these triangle blocks, all right? And each of the triangle blocks in the quilt are in the rows where the point goes to the top. You're going to make the exact same block again out of your background fabrics, but each row that we're going to be making next week will have that light piece, you know, going down. So we're going to talk about our side adjoining, so to get the square quilt, and we're going to also talk about these circle pieces and how those are attached and what that, you know, what the pattern says and stuff. So if you just want to do one block to try it out, or make as many blocks as you want to, and the variety is pretty wonderful in terms of each of these blocks. She's used very textural fabrics, bright colors. They all fit into kind of the same colors that I was using with these fall fabrics, fall-ish fabrics, and it makes it just really fun with that. So in the background, as you can see, she's used a variety of whites, grays, tans, and you know, from place to place she's got some fairly dark ones, and that, you know, is a choice if you want to do that or make them more a variety, or if you want to go solid. If you want to do that, you would simply measure the triangle and then cut triangles for it. But I, you know, for my first white one, I just picked a variety of, you know, prints and stuff that doesn't overpower my fabrics, but adds some whimsy and fun to it. And so that will be your assignment for this week, is to create one or more of those triangle blocks and follow, you know, the pictures do a wonderful job of telling you exactly where to, and remembering to press open. It just helps you meet those seams up. So, but if you miss in the center, no sweat, because you're going to cover them up with circles. So next week we're going to create those circles. I'm going to give you options for doing that. We're going to work on those side pieces, putting that quilt together, and that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward. I think I'm going to at least make a lap size top quilt out of this, because the blocks have been kind of fun to make, and I got started and couldn't quit in a way. So let me check with questions. And again, just to let you know, tomorrow on the quilt show, they're going to reveal the block of the month. You know, you're going to end up where it says, seems it would be easier to assemble two halves, sides of the triangles, and then one seam down the center. Going down, it doesn't quite do a center with that. So, but yeah, you can, if you have a way that makes it easier for you to get that block together, go for it. I was simply showing you how she does it in the pattern, and it worked out really good. It goes really quickly if you put the right sides together, that is, and don't have to take it out. How do we get the book? You go to thequiltshow.com, and you will find it under Dee Saturday Sampler with patterns and blocks, and it's a PDF download from them. So that's how you would get the pattern, and it's a great book. There are just really a lot of really fun quilts in there. Oh, Sherry, doesn't that break your heart when you sew a whole thing and you haven't noticed that you're doing it incorrectly? Oh, I hate that. Yeah, Kristen loves the Pet Groomer seam ripper. Maybe I just don't have coordination, because I never quite get it to work for me. Oh, Vicky's already made 2 of the quilts from this book. Well, maybe you'll like this one. I just think it's really, really cute. And, yeah, and Cheryl, hopefully you saw the picture that I showed you from the book with the finished quilt, because I certainly, in a week's time, cannot finish all of these quilts, a week at a time. And hopefully you guys understand that. All right, I don't see any other questions, and so have fun making your triangle blocks this week and put it together. If you've found a better way, let me know. Share that. And if the person who said that they were going to sew 2 safts together and 1 seam down the middle, let me know how that goes for you. because it's always good to learn new ways. But I shared what she did in the book, and I found that my center points really came out well doing it that way. So have a great week. Blessings to all of you, and we'll see you next time.